Hey, we are talking about Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 9, Hide and Seek. We are going to give our spoiler-free reviews of the episode, and then we are going to get into a full spoiler breakdown of the penultimate episode of Season 2, starting now. Welcome to the Nerd Social. I am Nathan.
I'm Colin.
I'm David.
Hey guys, so the spoiler-free logline for this episode is Picard and his crew fight for their lives as they come under attack from a new incarnation of an old enemy. But to survive, Picard must first face the ghost of his past. Seven and Raffi have a final showdown with Jurati. So, Colin, what did you think of this episode? Spoiler-free, of course.
Yeah, I think that this episode was pretty good overall. I think that you mentioned I wasn't here for the last couple of live streams, but you mentioned that I think last episode you were like it's a meandering episode, and I think that they definitely did not meander that much, but but it was still pretty solid overall. I think that some of the things that you have mentioned and Condra have mentioned, David have mentioned over the past couple of weeks have been cropping up and stuff like that. It's like there's no kind of like continuity or like there's like they're like almost in the wind somewhere, like going up and down in the wind or something like that, and they don't really know where they're going with this, and the audience didn't know where we're going with this. So I think that for me, they did reveal some things that was really cool and really interesting, but at the same time, I think that definitely I wouldn't say it was probably better than the first two episodes. Probably would be, I would say the third best out of this whole season so far. But yeah, I think still pretty solid. I would still highly recommend watching it just to kind of see some of the reveals and to kind of, okay, well, we spent all this time, invested all this time. Now we're getting some of the fruits of our labor. So, yeah, that's how I think of it overall.
Yeah. David, what did you think?
I think it's a pretty good episode myself as well. But even though it's like I feel like it's an extension and a continuation of the recent episode, we dive into Picard's past and we learn the truth of what happened between his mother and also his family history as well. And at the same time, we get to know more about what happens with the other characters in the same place, even though there were a few surprises at the end, near the end. So, and also, but it's pretty much, and it also left us a cliffhanger because obviously it's the ninth episode, and the finale is next week, so they had to do it obviously. But pretty much I liked it, and especially that there's more action and it's straight on to the point, and that it doesn't feel dragged on and everything. So I pretty much liked it.
Yeah, um, I think I've been hard on this season for the last couple weeks, and I don't want to be because I love Star Trek and I want to like the show, but there have been some fundamental issues with the season. This episode was better. Um, but it still has a lot of problems, and the problems in this episode are because of some of the issues that they established earlier in the season. I mean, I still can't rate it. I was really trying to justify in my head like giving it at least an 8, but I make it better than last week. It's like a 7.5 for me. Um, and I have to get into like the spoiler territory to explain why, like nitpicking why, because there were some like nonsensical things in this episode, even though it was an
Mm-hmm.
improvement over last week, that I can't, that were too distracting for me to say, okay, this is a great episode or this is a very good episode, which is what I would be giving it if I were saying it was an 8. That being said, it was an improvement over last week. People were actually doing things for the most part, um, which they have been doing since the episode several weeks ago when they were basically standing around at a party. Each week they've been doing a little bit more, so that's good. I don't think that the stuff that they gave them to do is necessarily all that interesting. I so I've said this in the previous weeks. I think that they didn't have 10 episodes of story, and they tried to stretch it, and they tried to belabor things, and they tried to string along the audience, and they should have just made a six episode season. That's what Moon Knight is doing. That's what a lot of the other Marvel shows have done. 6 or 8 episodes. You don't have to, just because you get an order for 10 episodes. If you don't have 10 episodes worth of story, don't do it. The other issue with this season has been, and again, I feel like I'm repeating myself because every week it's more and more evident, and now we're at the penultimate episode, and it's very clear that they wanted certain actors to come back, but they didn't have anything for them to do. If you strung together all of Rios's story, like and I might do this, if you strung together all of his story this season and just cut it together, what has he done this season? Seriously, it's he had a cool scene in this episode, but and we'll get to that when we talk about this in the spoiler portion. But besides that, I don't know what he did this season. Besides pining after a woman in 2024, and that's not even a really compelling storyline. It's not like I don't like love stories, but it wasn't written well enough for me to be invested in their love story. And it's not like I don't like the actor. I do like the actress or the actor that's playing his love interest. But yeah, they didn't give him enough to do this season. It seems like they didn't have a storyline for him. But they have the actor, right? It seems like they didn't have a storyline for Jurati in 7, but they have the actors, so they have to have them standing around for a lot or doing missions that actually accomplish nothing for a fair amount. Like they had more to do this season, but marginally more to do than Rios. The standout for this episode, just like this season, has been Gerardi. The Gerardi Borg stuff is the only thing that really worked this season. And even that didn't work like 100% because there's some. Again, when we get to the spoiler part, we can talk about what the issue is that I have with the Gerardi Borg Queen thing. But for the most part, Alison Pill has been awesome. What they've given her to do has been more meaty than everyone else on the show. At times, even more meaty than what they've given Picard to do in this season. Speaking of Picard, they dragged out his backstory stuff too long. There's something we actually get some closure in this episode, so that's why it's a bit better than the previous episodes for me. But the Picard thing was because they didn't have enough story. It was just annoying how they dragged it out, and something that should have been very impactful for the audience. I ended up being okay, and it's a very dark and twisted thing that happened to him, and I can understand how it might affect him, but like they drug it on too long. I think I was talking to you, Colin, or our group earlier today, and I said that this season has been about his mother. I had a more impactful experience with one episode of Moon Knight yesterday and a mother flashback than I did this entire season with Picard. And it's not like I've known Picard for more than 20 years. I was introduced to Moon Knight like 5 weeks ago. And I cared more about what happened with his mother than I did with what happened with Picard's mother because they drug it out so much. It wasn't. I don't know. I don't know what they were doing there. It was fine. It was a strong choice, but it would have been stronger if if we got this information in episode 6 than we did in episode 9. And then they have to make it make sense with why this is related to Q, why this is related to why he was pushed back in time, why the Borg Queen said look up at the first in the first episode. I'm sure they'll probably come up with something, but it's going to be convoluted and contrived at this point. I'm sure, because they also did something a little bit convoluted and contrived in retconning in this episode as well. So yeah, I'm complaining about a lot of stuff. So what I can say is that, like as I said, the people weren't standing around doing absolutely nothing in this episode, which is why it's better. The action was done very well in this episode. The action this entire season has been done very well. So let me not like slag off the entire show because of the writers dropping the ball. Like the writer and the showrunner is who is to blame here. The stunt coordinator was exceptional in the show. I think I was just looking at the action in this episode, and I was just thinking about how, like, back in the TNG era, they just probably didn't have money for stunt coordinators or stunt choreographers, because the fight scenes were very elaborate and awesome in this episode, but also some of the stunt driving that they did this season. All that stuff is great. So let me give those people, and actually the guy actually shows up in that guy and his team, their flowers, okay, because they did a great job. But yeah, the writing in this episode suffered because of the writing in the entire season. So that's how I feel about our penultimate episode. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope they're able to tie it up, but it feel like more competent writers would have been able to, at this point, convince me that they were going to wrap this up in a more satisfying way. They already in this episode made a lot of decisions that they made, like I said, no sense if you think about the season logically. So I don't know. Maybe the next episode is gonna require like a Herculean effort to fix a lot of the things that they've a lot of the issues that I have with this season. And I think I was talking to you yesterday, Colin. I think this is unfortunately like the worst season of Star Trek, just because there's very little rewatchability for this season. Like I can rewatch. People complain about Discovery for whatever reasons, whatever political reasons they have, or whatever. But I can go back and rewatch every season of Discovery. I might not watch one or two episodes, but like there's like a swath of episodes in the middle of the season that I have no interest in revisiting. The first episode, sure.
Yeah.
The second episode was great. Good, really great beginning. This episode, I think you have to watch it to understand the ending. And probably the next episode, you'll have to watch it to understand the ending. But there's like this whole middle portion, which is where I think, like I said, they were just stretching a 6 episode story into like 10 episodes, where you had a bunch of people just standing around, and they're like, it's not. I'm not to say that like there weren't individual like scenes that were interesting or good in those episodes. Like I think the worst episode of the season was at the party, but that speech that speech that Picard gave in that episode, which is the worst episode of the season, was great. But that was the only thing that was really good in that episode, besides Jurati singing. Even though Jurati singing made no sense because she turned off all the power and then it was a spotlight on her. But there are individual moments in those episodes, but I'm not going to watch the entire episode for that moment. So Star Trek has always been like comfort food rewatchable. Even the stuff that people complain about. Like I could rewatch. I'd rather rewatch the first season of like Enterprise over rewatching the first season of this. And the first season of Enterprise was shaky in a lot of places, but there were individual episodes there that were worth revisiting. So I don't know. I'm not a person. I'm not a person who comes into Star Trek wanting to hate it or dislike it. I love this stuff, and I want it to be better. And I think we disagree about this, but I definitely don't like this season. And I think they had a better grasp of the material in the past season. I know you didn't like this first season, but I think this season is a lot worse than the first season.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I hear you what you're saying, Nathan, in that, and being a Star Trek fan as well, I think that you gravitate toward the old school stuff, TNG, Deep Space Nine, and even to a certain extent Voyager, but it's when there's some certain episodes that I would rewatch with Voyager and stuff like that. So I think I hear what you're saying, and I think that my brother actually is a huge TNG fan. He loves TNG, Riker, Troy, Picard, Crusher. Like he can rewatch those like anytime he wants, LaForge and all that.
Yeah.
But the thing with him is that he is just turned off by like Picard because he's just like he gave it a chance, but then he's like, this like what you're saying now, Nathan, is that there's just so many discontinuity, retconning. There's obviously people that don't know this stuff. I have a cousin that is also a big Trek fan as well, and he's like, I can't watch this because this is not what I grew up with. And so I think that there's a lot of that type of jadedness jadedness because of there is definitely, of course, we're not saying that TNG or DS9 or even Voyager was perfect, not by any stretch.
No, they're not perfect. No.
But at the same time, there were some rewatchable moments, from TNG that you can pull and say, wow, that's like really, really great. Best of both worlds. Probably the best Trek episode ever, in a lot of ways. And you could rewatch that anytime. Like I could rewatch it right now and I'll still be entertained,
Yeah.
So is there something like Best of Both Worlds or even like Measure of Man, Yesterday's Enterprise? No, there's nothing really like that's here. Like there's maybe we can say a little bit of the of like season 1, like we talked about with Riker and Troy, that the episode Riker and Troy, the episode Nepenthe, and then the end episode with Data, yeah, maybe that probably will qualify, but honestly, not really that much besides that.
Yeah, I want to be clear about what I'm saying because I don't want people to like. Whenever I don't like something that I know that there's a lot of like toxic fanboys that don't like things, I want to be clear about what I'm saying so that I'm not used as like he's a black guy and he doesn't like it. I am not on the side of like the misogynist or the racist who don't like this stuff. I don't like this for a very specific reason. Like I like Discovery. I love Discovery in places. They made me care about those characters and like I said, I could rewatch any season of Discovery and maybe drop 1 or 2 episodes. That's not the issue here. The fact that there are black characters in this season, the fact that they have a Latino in this season, that's not my issue with this show.
Right.
My issue with the show is the writing and the nonsensical decisions that they're making, and the fact that they establish these characters and I don't care about these characters because they haven't given them enough for me to care about. I care about pretty much all the characters that they spend time with on Discovery. I have issues with Discovery. They should definitely spend more time with the bridge crew. But the characters that they give things to do, I care about every single character in Discovery because they've written things for me to care about. I think the character of Raffi, I think the character bringing back Seven, I think Elnor and Soji, all those characters have potential, but they didn't have anything for them to do. Someone else noted this. I think I was watching Steve Shive's review of this earlier, and he made a point that a variation on the point that I made earlier about the fact that they didn't have things for people to do. Very specifically, they're like 4 actors that they had no storyline whatsoever. Like the stuff that they're doing with Rios and Seven and Raffi is annoying enough, but like but the guy who plays Elnor, the guy the woman who plays Soji, Brent Spiner,
right.
They didn't have anything for them to do whatsoever, so they just created new characters that had a convoluted story for why they in this episode. Yeah, they had nothing for them to do, and they brought them back anyway. And that's not a good that's not a good way to come up with a story. You should come up with a story, and then if the characters fit, have them fit. I like these actors. I hope they get work. But if the writers didn't have anything for them to do, I don't think that necessarily serves them. I know these people are regular people and they have mortgages and stuff like that, but like, I don't know. I don't understand the decisions that were made because they didn't. The writers obviously didn't have story for them. Story for them to actually act.
Yeah, I think also the other thing is that, we talked about this in other franchises and stuff like that. Like there is source material. There is stuff that's there that is rich, and that yes, there's some stuff that you can live without. And we made countless references to Marvel of how they were able to take source material that was racist or stereotypical or really bad taste and make it great, in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of material in Star Trek from the TNG years and from Voyager, because we have 7 in this season, that was fairly rich, and you could actually derive some things from it, okay, to make it very compelling. And I think that there's not much care that's put into that type of, or deliberateness that's put into it, and that's the problem. Is that I think that the writers they want to create a new story, and it's like, great, that's great that you're creating a new story, but at the same time you need to understand that where are they coming from, and I think that Star Trek sometimes has this kind of like dishevelment that happens, or discontinuity that happens, and you're like, what the hell is going on, with these characters? Because you grew up these characters. I like Picard. I think that he was a very stoic gentleman. He's a very private man and stuff like that. Captain of the Enterprise. But you cared about him, and then you make the series about Picard, and then you kind of cared less about him, and it's like.
Yeah,
in some ways, it's like,
what I was thinking about.
Why? Like, that's kind of weird.
What I was thinking about earlier? I was thinking about when Jordan went on to like baseball, and then he came back and played basketball again for like the Wizards for a little bit. It's just like, if this is what they're going to do with Picard, they could have not do the show. Like, And I don't have a lot of high hopes for season 3 either, because they're already done shooting it, so they can't take any criticism on board to make season 3 better. They already finished shooting it. I don't know. I don't know. I think that Akiva Goldsman was probably a bad choice for showrunner of this show. This show has been so disappointing, but that I've been spending more time analyzing why it's bad as opposed to like just enjoying the storyline. So I actually went back and looked at all the past stuff that he's done, and it's been a mix of things. He won an Academy Award for Beautiful Mind, but like he's had a lot of stuff, like a lot of movies that have been like really mediocre, and I think he only got the job because he's Alex Kurtzman's friend, which and it seems like when he came on. If you watch the Ready Room, when he came on, he thought he was going to do a Pike show. So maybe that means the Pike show is going to be okay, because he's also the showrunner on that show, which gives me a little bit of pause and also makes me a little bit concerned. But he's not the only showrunner on that show. But he doesn't know how to he doesn't know how to write serialized television. He wrote a couple episodes of Fringe, and that show isn't as serialized. It's kind of like more like Star Trek, but it has like a background serialized element. So maybe on Strange New Worlds he will do better, because he doesn't have to come up with a serialized story. I think that he wasn't the best choice for this season. I think Michael Chabon was the showrunner in season 1, and I think he did a better job. Even though, like I said, season 1 was not perfect. I don't know. I like the characters more. I mean, like they maybe not care about characters that I liked in the first season. I'm really annoyed what they did with Rios, given what they gave him last season. I cared about what was like his journey, the stuff, the trauma that he was dealing with, his captain killing himself last season. All that stuff is interesting, and they could have like doubled down on that and like continued to explore that in this season, and they didn't really do anything with it. The stuff with Raffi and her son, it seems like they try to touch on it this season with Elnor, but
Mm-hmm.
they weren't as explicit, and they didn't really give that they could have actually given her lines where she actually was explicit about it. And and you don't have to be explicit about everything, but it's not like they were giving her a lot of other things to do. So it's not like, so if, given that they weren't giving her a lot of other things to do, give her some lines about the fact that, you know, she doesn't have this relationship with her son anymore, and Elnor basically took that place. Great.
Right.
The actor is talking about that in the ready room, but that's not in the show. Right? So, like, I watched the show. I shouldn't have to watch an after show to get that from the actor. I understand that helps you prepare for the show, the character, and get in the mood and everything, or get in the mindset. But, like, it doesn't really necessarily. It's not really clear to the audience. And again, if she was given other things to do, then maybe I would say, okay, maybe they don't have time to do that, and it's implied. But she didn't have much to do this season, nor did Seven. And maybe that there was, I think earlier in the season, I mentioned there was a prequel, like, radio drama with them, which might give them more story. But again, you shouldn't necessarily have to watch ancillary entertainment to make the main show make sense or better. I mean, sometimes you can do that and it's fine. I mean, like, Clone Wars definitely made the prequels better, but they had an opportunity to make the show itself good, and they didn't take that opportunity.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so this has been a longer review time than usual. And it's mostly been complaining about this season. We can actually start getting into the actual episode and spoilers talk, unless you have more to say about the episode or the season. David, anything else, or we can jump into spoiler talk? Okay. All right. So spoilers ahead. I should say, if you're enjoying the conversation, hopefully it's not depressing you too much. You can join the conversation by commenting down below, and like and subscribe to get more content like this. And with that, spoilers ahead. Alright, so where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start with a big revelation, which, like I said, kind of went up like a lead balloon for me. Like, it was if I think about it for a long time, I can see what they're trying to do, but I feel like they should have done that back when they were in Picard's mind. There was no reason to hold on to that information for 2 more episodes. They should have just had the revelation in that episode. They're in his mind. But where do you want to start?
Wait a second. The Borg Queen was not his mother?
No. It was. I think it was confirmed it's not the mother.
Oh my gosh, that was one of the biggest things. Like, no, it's not his mom. Okay, all right, great, awesome. that was. I just remember how comedic that was, and how people were so kind of like theory crafting and things like that, and then all of a sudden it's just because all of a sudden it's just all of a sudden what happened was that the mom had some mental health issues and then committed suicide.
Yeah, I mean, it's still like this is why I can't give this episode an 8 though. Like, and it's not because of this episode, but like we've already established that the Borg Queen shows up in the future and says, "Don't look up." Why does she say that then? Like, are we saying that she says that because of the fact that the Borg Queen assimilated Picard and she has that information? Like, why did I like it makes no sense. Like,
Well, actually, I have one theory though, because if you remember when because Picard, when Jurati was with Picard, learned the entire history as they were, I don't know, as Seven and Raffi and Rios went out to the scavenger hunting in California, and they were stuck in Paris near Castle.
Yeah. Go.
I mean, something that it feels like a scavenger hunt, but led to nowhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, while Gerardi and Picard were exploring Chateau Picard back in 2024, and Picard explaining a lot of tells Gerardi a lot of his history, even the sign, even the word "look up," kind of thing. So,
Did he say
but I
that
mean, I have
in
two
that scene?
theories.
In that when he
What?
was in the chateau with her, did he actually tell her? Like I remember him telling her about his mother, but I don't remember him saying like
Well, the
sharing
thing
that
is,
information.
yeah, he didn't say exactly, but that's one theory. It could be Gerardi.
Oh, it's
Or
definitely Jurati in
two,
the
it
future.
could
But
be
like, how did Jurati get that information?
it's really well because I think I mean this Borg Queen did not infiltrate the mind of Picard, hence no don't know the line because this Borg Queen is very different from the Borg Queen we know in the past, but or the previous
Hmm.
incarnations, but this one I think this one when Jurati got into the Borg Queen's mind. I think because the Borg Queen's mind must have the past database of the cutis because when you assimilate, you get the
Maybe.
minds
Yeah.
and the memories.
Yeah.
So it could be that Borg Queen has the I don't know I don't know has the database of Picard when he was the cutis and everything. So she knows who he is the cutis. So that's one theory. So it could be that the Borg Queen.
Sure.
So there could be the Borg Queen emissary we met in episode one. Could be Jurati or 201 or whatever her name is, or it could be. And I read that some fan that say they could name a card because in the speech where Picard met his ancestor in the gala, he said the words "look up to her." So I'm thinking, could it be her? Which I kind of doubt it because they didn't say what because Picard didn't know what happened to Renee Picard when she did the Europa mission. So that's a theory too.
I mean, I think it's definitely Jurati in the future. I think it is a stretch to say that because Picard was assimilated and was Locutus, that is why Gerardi Queen has that information. We've already established in several versions of Star Trek that the Borg have assimilated literally trillions of people. Are you trying? Are we supposed to believe that inside the Borg Queen's mind, she has the individual life experiences of trillions of people are in her head? How? I mean, I don't think that is plausible. I don't really care how many nanoprobes she's made of. If she was made up of all nanoprobes, I'm not sure how she would store that much information. So it doesn't make sense. Which and I was talking to Contra
Okay.
about this
Yeah.
like last week when we were talking about like Star Trek Five, where they do a lot of things that don't necessarily make sense. If the material is good enough, you can excuse plot holes and things that don't make sense. But if it isn't,
Mhm.
it just become more glaring. So I don't know how that makes sense or how they're going to resolve that. Um, I don't remember, and it's possible that I'm wrong. It's possible that when he was touring the chateau and talking to Jurati when they went into the chateau for warmth, when the rest of the team was gone, he did say don't look up, so that maybe that solves the issue. But I don't think he was that explicit because he's very guarded about everything in his past. I don't think he was that specific about
Mhm.
what his mother said. But yeah, I think it's definitely the Gerardi Queen in the future. That's why they had a helmet on.
Mm.
That's why they had a helmet over her face because you would have immediately seen that it was Jurati and that it would have given away the ghost or whatever in the first episode.
So what was the motivation for her to do that, though?
To
Honestly,
to do what?
if that's
To
the
what in
case,
the first season in the
to
first episode?
exactly like what was her motivation to do
Here's
that?
the other thing with the what they decided to do with Jurati. So right here, Jurati is convincing the Borg Queen to not kill Seven because to create a new collective, right?
Right.
Let's see if I can go back to that scene here. To create a new collective is what this part of this conversation is about. She starts to cry, which gives her a little bit more control, and she says we can create a new collective because in every timeline you always lose to the Federation because we're a collective of people who chose to work together, and you can create a new collective, a better collective, if you actually get people's consent. People might not like that, but whatever. It's a new thing that they decided to do with the Borg. They need to resolve the time issue. The only reason that they exist here is because of the problem with Rene Picard. If they fix the thing with Rene Picard, then they didn't go back in time at all, and the future wasn't screwed up in the first place. So nothing that they did in the past would matter. Otherwise, the fact that they're killing people left and right is a big problem, right? The fact that they're killing people left and right is a big problem. The fact that they let a Borg Queen go back to the Delta Quadrant is a big problem. They're creating all these butterflies, right? So like, how is anything that she's doing, the fact that she's deciding to create a new collective, going to matter in the grand scheme of things if their mission is successful and and Renee gets to Europa? If Renee gets to Europa, if that's the thing that changed in the past to create the Confederation doesn't get created, and they never go back in the past in the first place. So if they never go back in the past in the first place, how did this specific Borg Queen that was created when the Confederation existed come to the universe where the Federation exists? It makes no sense.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. I mean, because when they have a Borg Queen, I'm thinking like, I was like, wait. When did the Confederation met the Borg? Because back in TNG, we haven't met the Borg until the episode in season 1 called Q Who. Because when Q and Guinan first met at 10-4 at the bar, and then Guinan told the crew of the Enterprise saying, "This is the Borg." So in that timeline, that's when they met the Borg. But now in this timeline, they did not explain exactly how they met this Borg Queen, or captured a Borg Queen rather.
I mean, at the beginning of the season, I think that you're supposed to assume that in the Confederation since they're destroying all these civilizations, they captured the Borg Queen just like they captured people of other species. I didn't really have an issue with that. I don't understand the Gerardi Borg Queen that showed up in the first episode, because I think that's probably what's going to happen, right? The only reason to put a helmet on that person is because it's someone that we know. So, and it's obviously Jurati, because Jurati is left at the end of this episode. But again, if the Confederation isn't created, this version of Jurati isn't created either. This version of Jurati Borg Queen isn't created either. So how does she show up in a separate? So like, is she transporting from a different timeline? Is that why there's a temporal rift at the beginning? Because they did mention there was a temporal rift. Is she coming from a completely different universe? Because she can't exist in the same universe where there is another Borg Queen who never merged with Jurati. She can't exist in the Federation universe. So that Seven does say in that episode that this is a different kind of Borg Queen, or it's a different kind of Borg Queen. Okay, but they have to explain that. Because if they fix the Rene Picard issue, this entire timeline is aborted. Because if it's not aborted, they killed too many people to call it. Like, the fact that Rene Picard didn't get to Europa is the least of their worries, given how many people that they killed just at the chateau. So this entire timeline needs to be aborted. They killed way too many people to not cause other issues in the future.
I mean, it could be a case where basically the whole season 2 gets wiped out, because basically if what you're saying is true, that the Europa mission is is follow through,
Mm-hmm.
and we're assuming that it's going to be successful, despite the fact that Soong is out in the wind somewhere, as Seven said.
Mm-hmm.
Then basically this is all wiped out, just like in X-Men: Days of Future Past. Like
Mm-hmm.
Days of Future Past is a great movie, but it basically was totally wiped out. The future, the dystopian future that they saw. So I mean, but the thing is that movie was great. This is just like, if you're wiping out the whole season 2, it's like, oh, then you don't really need to watch it anymore, right? It's not really that compelling to watch. So it's kind of weird.
I mean, I guess the showrunners of the show would say that you watch it to get that nugget of information about Picard's past, the fact that his mother. But like, you made us watch 10 hours of television to give us that piece of information. Seriously. So like, okay. Okay.
But the love story too. The Terminator love story, David. The Terminator love story.
It's similar. It's close to a Terminator love story. I'm like, what is this?
That's his kid. That's his kid, David. That's his kid. Okay.
I think he's definitely.
He's the father.
I think he's definitely going to stay in the past.
Which,
again, makes no sense, because after they fixed the Rene Picard thing, they never went back in the past in the first place, which means he's not actually there, right? Nothing that they do would mean anything, because not only does it, after they fix the Rene Picard thing, the Federation is back. So like, lots of things that didn't happen would happen, like Kirk going back to the 80s, and like Picard going back to the to meet Mark Twain. All that goes back, and all that stuff it happened again. So the whole world, even before the time that they showed up, is going to be completely different. So I don't know.
Maybe she dies. Maybe she dies in this next episode, so he has to go back in time, like Superman did, and like go back in time, and then they lived happily ever after, and then he has a child. The child is his child. That's.
I don't know.
Well, we know. I mean, Picard knows the history of his ancestor. What's going to happen?
Well, I mean,
because
Contra was saying that because of the World War III, it was just supposed to happen soon after this in 2024. Mm-hmm. A lot of the records were lost, and Picard it mentions that, so that's why he doesn't necessarily know the specifics of this ancestor, even though he knows ancestors that are older, because the records weren't as trash. So I understand he doesn't necessarily know the specifics of what happened with this ancestor. He might not be as familiar with this ancestor. I can accept that, given what they already established in Trek canon, that Soong took over in the 90s, and that was the precursor to all-out World War III in the 21st century. So a lot of electronic records, a lot of records would have been lost. That's fine. But that's a small issue compared to all the other issues that they're going to create if they don't put the entire timeline back. And if they put the entire timeline back, Gerardi Queen doesn't exist, and the guy Rios can't stay back in time, because that means that they never went back in time. Like, everything that they did in the past has to be wiped out. Otherwise, like I said, the fact that they killed like 40 people in this episode is an issue. They killed like all those dudes. I mean, they're supposed to be. They're not actually Borg drones. They're human beings that existed in the past who have families that are going to create holes in the timeline if they don't exist in the past for the future. So they need to be that needs to be completely wiped out.
About the police officers and the Homeland Security guys and all the prisoners from the bus, all those people,
someone else made this point, but those people would not have gotten away from ICE. It's terrible that they wouldn't have gotten away from ICE, but the fact that they didn't get away from ICE in the regular history, and the fact that they did get away from ICE because they decided to release the entire bus, would have changed the timeline. So like, there's so many different issues that they created in the timeline that I don't know. Yeah, the only way they fix that is if the original thing that created the Confederation is wiped out. But who knows? How they're going to explain it, because they decided to spend several episodes in the past where the where the characters are doing things. Now, as I said, they're not doing much, because it'd be more interesting if they were doing much. They're not giving them much to do, but they're doing enough that they're creating issues for the future. So, yeah, I don't know. So what we want to talk about the so you were saying the Terminator of it all. So like he's here, and he's saying that believe me, I thought about it and I want to stay in the past, but I can't. And the future is for you guys. And okay, whatever. I feel like they're definitely setting this up for him to stay in the past. But again, wouldn't make any sense. But I don't know. How did you guys feel about the reveal here at the very end? The reveal here at the very end. So there's the other thing here. Seven gets reassimilated by the Borg Queen, and also this is Rios's one portion where he got to be a hero in this episode. But at the same time, she's being reassimilated. This is happening, and she gets reassimilated, and she has the exact same parts, which makes little to no sense. Why would she have the same implants in the same places? Is regardless of how you're assimilated, you get the same implants? Is it like coded to your DNA or something like that? I
probably is,
because
it's probably like a fan. I think this is probably a fan service thing, like give them give the fan the service, the seven that we all know.
It makes no sense whatsoever. If they could have just gave her back her implants when they fixed the timeline. There was no reason to give her implants right now. For various reasons. The only reason that she looks like this in the first place is because they removed a bunch of implants. Like the Voyager crew removed a bunch of implants. She had even more in her body. So why would she look exactly the same as she did when the Voyager crew removed a bunch of implants? Why would she have this exact same look? It makes no sense. And there was no reason to do this. She could.
Well, they didn't give her back the silver suit. Remember?
Yeah, I guess she doesn't have the silver suit, but she looks exactly the same as she did in season one. They could have had her assimilate her, and the implants would be in a different place. I didn't really have a problem with her assimilating her to save her, but like this made no sense. But there's a lot of things that don't make sense in this episode.
We actually have a comment. It says that commenter said that if corporate is going to spend the money, I'm assuming it's like Paramount and CBS, fill it with story, just add more story.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. As I said, they had 6 episodes of story, and they stretched it, and then they're making like boneheaded decisions that make no sense. So here's the part of the show where we get the reveal of what happened. Right, he had a skeleton. The skeleton's key is what unlocked the memory for him. Okay, so unlocked the memory of how he unlocked the door. So he unlocked the door. He let his mother out, and he carries this guilt his entire life that if he hadn't unlocked the door, his mother wouldn't have hung herself,
died,
and she wouldn't have died. I have a similar issue with them having a suicide in this episode that I did with Moon Knight yesterday. If they're going to have a suicide in this episode, they should have had an advisory at the beginning of the episode warning people that they were going to have a suicide in this episode, because just dropping that in the middle of the episode is not cool. But okay, he's carried this drama. You can extrapolate that. Okay, this is why he's had issues getting close to women his entire life. He tried to forget this portion of his life, and they even retcon the season 1 episode where his mother shows up on the ship as like
Yeah.
as like, okay, he just had dreams of his mother as an older woman, and that's why we saw her in the first episode, like, sorry, in the first season, because he wasn't actually recalling a memory. He was recalling a dream that he had, a dream of her. So I appreciate that they didn't forget.
Yeah.
I appreciate that they didn't forget that happened, because we've seen his mother before. But it's a weird retcon. It's a weird retcon. There's no way that the audience is going to be able to predict that you're going to completely erase some part of Star Trek history by retconning it. So like it's not satisfying to the audience. Like like I said, I appreciate that they didn't completely forget it, because it would have been another plot hole and another ridiculous thing, like giving Seven the implants in the exact same place. But it's a weird retcon. Like I think they wanted to give him this core trauma, but they and the fact that we've seen his mother as an old woman was in the way, and they just like push it off to the side. It was like, okay, it's in the way, but it's not a big deal. We want to give him this trauma. This is the trauma we're going to give him.
Okay. But when I first saw that was when that was happening. That's why I commented on you today. When we were offline, I said this does not make any sense. And then basically, just as I wrote that down, then Picard was saying, "Oh, this is what happened. This is it's like a dream, basically." And I was like, "Oh, okay, it makes sense now." But then I'm like, "But then you're right, Nathan. It's like it doesn't like really does it really necessary? I mean, yes, it was necessary to kind of fix that plot hole, but yeah, did it feel like it's? I don't know. I just feel kind of weird about it. It's like." Obviously in TNG, they had an image of her mom, but I think it was still a dream sequence, if I remember correctly. That was like a dream. It was a dream
sequence. So like that.
It was a dream sequence.
Yeah, they had went to they went to the edge of the universe, and they all started hallucinating things. So yes, you could say that he wasn't hallucinating a memory; he was hallucinating a dream, that like something that he wanted. It's not the impression that you got in that episode. The impression that you got in that episode is that she died old and he still wanted to be with his mother. But fine. But it's a weird retcon. I can appreciate what they were trying to do here. I think that people will have issues with it because it's dark. I don't have issues with it because it's dark. I have issues with it because they dragged it out. Like, we should have gotten this information. Yeah, we should have gotten this information when we were in his head. I don't know. I don't remember what else they were doing in that episode, but they could have dedicated that entire episode to his head and had that instead of doing other things in that episode. Because it's not like they gave other people in the episode a lot to do besides stand around. I think maybe the Jurati stuff was advanced a little bit in that episode, but they definitely they dragged this out too much. I think it's terrible what happened to him, but like I said, at this point, even though I've known Picard for like over 20 years, I care more about what happened to Mark Spector yesterday and his mother, than I do what happened with Picard and his mother. Like, because not only that, because not just because of the way that they dragged it out, but because of the way they dragged it out, it's not super surprising what happened. They've been saying that she had mental health issues.
Right.
They did need
go
ahead.
Yeah. But also the point is that, going back to those middle episodes, I mean, what were they doing? Like, Rios was captured. Okay, so could that have been taken out? Probably. What else? Jurati was Seven and Raffi were like trying to rescue Rios. I mean, could that have been taken out? Sure. Jurati, had the interaction with the Borg Queen. I think that was still pretty good stuff. But like, yeah,
the Jurati and Borg Queen stuff was the only thing that I would keep from this season. But like I said, if they fix the timeline, then I don't understand how she still exists. So they have to explain how she still exists if they fix the timeline. If the Federation exists, then they never went back in the past from the Confederation. Then so that Jurati is in it. So is the
but also
also she shows up also. I think they actually have to do that. Like she came from a different timeline because remember in that scene Jurati is on the bridge. So if another version of her is also on the bridge, then she has to be from a different timeline because they're not going to kill off. They're not going to kill off the Federation Jurati. The Jurati that went back in time and merged with the Borg Queen is the Confederation Jurati. So yeah.
But also, we can say also, Soong, is he necessary in this? Soji, is she necessary in this? So like all those middle episodes where, the whole thing about the cloning thing, is that really necessary to like talk about cloning there? I don't really think so. Maybe at the end of the final episode next week, we get to see, what's that all about. Q was like, second episode was there. But like Q is like totally wasted in like that, with the interaction with Soong. It's like, why? Like, do you really need them there? So, yeah.
Not only that, but I figured that what's the whole point with Q anyway? This whole season, I feel like
I think we'll get some. I think we'll get some answers in the next episode, but I feel like they're just not going to be satisfying. I can imagine that they're going to be satisfying, given what they've written so far.
I hope so because they gave hints of like there's something wrong with Q or the Q continuum basically because Guinan picked up saying younger Guinan found out saying you're dying. So then they're like, okay, if he's dying, why didn't you just tell Picard in the first place and then tell him what's going on and why set to that specific point? And so. And something's relating to either Soong and or Rene Picard. It's one of those two things and everything. We know what's going to happen if either though. It's like a double-edged sword right now because it has to be one or the other because it would lead to the Confederation where Soong's statue is shown in San Francisco at the Federation base, but. If my guess is something to do that Rene Picard did not go to the Europa mission. So even if Rene Picard did go to the Europa mission, but Soong knows all the knowledge thanks to Q, and somehow Corey, the last clone daughter, is somewhere out there. Which again, I'm like saying, okay, you had like Colin said earlier, Soji's character or Corey, whatever. Is been there, but for what though? And I so hope, as you said, Nathaniel, that the final finale will close all the plot holes, answer all the questions, be everything. And right now, there's too many questions left open, and then so much confusion out there. And I feel like this whole season should have been a movie special. Like a 2-hour movie special. That's it. Because there's a lot of things that could have been cut out or not necessarily be added in there. So I feel like you said earlier, it's dragged on. So, I mean, that's why I really hope that the finale, which I can't say, I had to say it's a 50-50 chance that it will be satisfying. I don't know about 50-50.
I mean, I'm saying like 20... 30-70 maybe.
I would say it's a low percentage chance that... I think I give it a low percentage there because this is how I mean this whole season has been confused and everything. I was so hooked on this season since episode 1, but throughout the whole scene it's like a letdown basically because I expected a lot more about it though. While at the same time in my brain, like I said before, this should have been a movie special instead of like a season,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that make sense. Like you had a Rios Terminator love story, and then you have Raffi and Seven going on a scavenger hunt, and Jeri trying to find more of herself, and then Fuse become 2 of 1. That's her new name. So, but yeah, and then we have like, but the thing is that when you're back in this time continuum, there was a conversation between Jurati and the Borg Queen. Jurati Well, it did answer me one question. The past two episodes, where the heck is Jurati? Where the Borg Queen's like, how I say, possessive of her body? Now we know why. Because Jurati has been finding out more the Borg Queen, saying out what you're scared about. And she showed like the scene where they show different kind of futures of all the Borg collective being destroyed. And that's the Borg Queen's greatest fear is being destroyed and being the last one, being
Mm.
all alone and everything, and wants to do more and everything. And that's when Giovanni proposed to create a new collective. And that kind of explains to me, okay, that explains what the hell is that new Borg ship that just showed up in episode one.
Yeah, I mean,
So it could be
I
some
guess it sort
Giovanni.
of explains that as well. But I mean, like I said, I don't think the Gerardi stuff is terrible. It just doesn't make
Hmm.
sense.
No, no,
I think
no.
that is probably one of the best elements of the season. It's not. It's not a reason to watch the season. Like if you're going to rewatch the season, I don't know that it's
Hmm.
Yeah.
so good or so great that it would make you want to rewatch, especially like episode like three through eight. Um, I guess you have to watch three to get the setup for the past, but like episodes like four through eight that are kind of like throwaway, except for the Gerardi scenes, and I think you could cut all the Gerardi scenes into one. Again, similar to the Rio stuff, and it would probably be less than an hour if you cut it all together. Even though it's all good stuff. I don't think it's a reason to watch the season, rewatch the season though. I think there are like four episodes in this 10 episode season that are mostly filler. So yeah, that are mostly filler, and it might be more than that. It might be 5 or 6 episodes that are mostly filler. But no, it's probably 5 episodes that are mostly filler. But which goes back to my point earlier that they had six episodes of story. I don't know. What else do we? So like the other thing that we forgot to mention because we've been talking about other things is that Elnor shows up again.
Hmm.
Mostly because again they like this actor and they want to give this actor work. So he shows up as a hologram here, and he fights the Borg drones here, and he has this reconciliation with Raffi, which is weird because it's not really him; it's a hologram of him, and the hologram of him says, "Oh, I have all the memories of
Elnor to
have
the
all
end.
the
Yeah.
up to the end." I'm like how Sway how how does that, like what's making
Yeah.
sense? It makes no sense whatsoever.
Makes no sense.
There's
I
no sense.
can I could
This
be
is a
okay with the
surprise,
fact
but
that Gerardi
it's a confusing
yeah
surprise.
I can be okay with the fact that
I
Jurati created a hologram of Elnor and has all the skills that Elnor has, but how does it have not how does it have any of his memories? One, how does it have his memories all the way up to his death? Like where was that recorded? Where was that recorded on the ship?
because he's space Legolas and he has nice hair. That's why.
Again, I like Evan Evagora.
Yeah.
I like Orla Brady. I like
Yeah.
who's the actress who plays Soji? I forget what her name is off the top of my head.
Issa Briones.
I like
Issa
all
Briones.
I like all of these people. They seem like swell people, and I appreciated what they did in season one. They didn't have anything for them to do in season two, but they wanted to give them jobs. So they wanted to give them jobs, which is nice. I appreciate being nice, but like if they wanted to give them jobs, they should have done their job and written something for them to do. So,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, this made no sense whatsoever. Like I was all on board for the Evan the Elnor hologram. But this little beat here where he's reconciling with Raffi to give her some comfort in the fact that he's dead made no sense. That like how would he have any of his memories? It made no sense. So,
yeah, it definitely made no sense, and you don't know whether or not he is going to come back, as well, because he is very dead, right now still.
Yeah, I mean,
and,
they have.
And
to
wait, he's also on the ship though, isn't he? Still on the ship?
Like his body is. His body is the ship that they let her take. Yes, the ship that they let her take. Yes.
Yeah.
His body's
he's still on the ship, right? Yeah. So like he's going to Delta Quadrant, right? Is he going to be resurrected somehow? You don't know. You don't know.
If that's how they bring him back, that's going to be like the stupidest. Like, if the entire timeline is reset because if the entire timeline is reset because they went back in time and fixed the thing with Renee, then he didn't die in the first place. He never died in the first place. That makes more sense than his body went to the Delta Quadrant, then he was resurrected by the Borg, and that's how he's going to show up again. Yeah. I don't know. Like David said, Corey is still out there, and I'm sure she's like a dangling plot thread that we're going to see in the next episode because Soong is still out there, and we know that he's going to show up in the next episode. And I think Corey, she's going to randomly show up in the same place that he's going to be, even though she decided to go off and have her own life. They're going to make Los Angeles seem like the size of a mall or something, that she's going to run into him again. Like she left and she went into the city of Los Angeles, which is very large. There's no reason whatsoever for her to run into him again in the course of like months, let alone a couple days from when she left. But I think she's going to show up in the next episode.
Wait, so would that mean that she's the ancestor? She would be an ancestor to Soji?
Would it? No, it means.
Oh, actually,
it means that the writers wanted to give her a job, and they couldn't come up with something better. That's what it means. That's what it means.
What I felt is like this. I felt like Corey is like another retcon in the past of Soji, again. Except there's no twins this time.
That's what I'm thinking. So that's what I'm thinking. They did mention in season 1 that she did have a family, and whether or not that family was real or not, we don't really know, right?
I mean, season 1, her family is all the other androids in the colony. I mean, that is her family. She was created by Adam Soong. No, sorry, Adam Soong is which one is Adam Soong? She was created by Adam Soong is the one in the past. What was the guy in the future? I forget his name. He's played so many. Brent Spiner has played so many Soongs. Noonien Soong's son. She was created by Noonien Soong's son. I forget what his name is off the top of my head. Yeah, that was her family. Also, apparently in season 1, they showed that some painting that Data made of his daughter is the exact same image. So maybe this is just some image of a child that they created over time. I think that's how they're trying to explain it. But again, they just wanted to give the actress some work.
And also, we kind of forget that Data did have a child from one of the TNG episodes. We kind of obviously forgot about that.
Lol.
Yeah.
Lol. So
okay,
he's had more than one daughter.
Yeah.
So I like Sasha Briones. Like I said, I like Evagora. They should have written more for them to do. Because a lot of what they came up with this season was contrived. They didn't seem to have anything. But like there were other characters in the first season that they completely dropped altogether. Like the two Romulans. They could have done the same thing here. If they didn't have something for them to do. And that's not what I would want, but if they didn't make sense in the story, that's what they should have done. Or they should have written something for them to do in the past. Like, I understand bringing that many people into the past, unless you come up with something for them to do, you're going to just basically have the same issue that you have with Rios, Raffi, and Seven. A bunch of people just standing around. But no one told them that they had to make it. They had to make an entire season in the past. As a decision that they made, and they have to figure out what to do with the characters.
They're just trying to do another First Contact, pretty much, and that I mean, that's what I said in the first couple of episodes. Like, hey, this is First Contact all over again. Why are they doing this? They did this also with the Voyage Home, Star Trek 4. So they did the same thing as well. So and yes, it's okay to revisit certain plot points, but at the same time, you try to make it better, not worse, right? So that's one of the things. And also, one of the things that really bothered me at the end of the episode was Picard he really was very indifferent about the fact that the ship is gone. How are they
going to get her back?
How are they going to get?
I'm sure they're going to get back. So I mean,
I know, but
he was going to get his power. He was going to get his powers back,
like,
or whatever. Or, I don't know.
Yeah, like he's too calm, cool, collected. It's like, aren't you supposed to be freaking out that like your ship is gone? Like the only way to get home is like gone for you. It's like you have like, what is it? 2024. There's going to be a spaceship. You're going to be on the Europa. Are you going to follow First Contact and say, "Oh, I'm going to be on the Europa"? We're going to go.
I think what we're supposed to believe as the audience is that they are willing to be stranded in the past if they can save the future. Which is okay. It's fine. I mean that's sort of what the thing that they did with T'Pol's grandmother, right? She was stranded on Earth for several years, and they just went into the background and tried to make as little impact as possible. So I think that's what we're probably led to believe. Like they're still going to try to accomplish their mission, and they'll just strand themselves in the past, and maybe just go to a remote island, or like, I don't know, go to New Zealand and go to the backwoods, so that they impact as few people as possible. But
I mean, that was basically First Contact too, when they try to destroy the Enterprise. I mean, that's basically what they try to do. But of course, it didn't succeed. But that's what they tried to do with the escape pods and stuff. So, but yeah, I just found it very weird that he was just too calm about it. I'm like, aren't you freaking out? You lost your ship, like, and Rios is like, that's your ship, and you're not even really like freaking out either. Rios
did say she took my ship, and Seven was like, it's my ship. But yeah, I mean they're annoyed that the ship is gone, but they're like, I feel like there should be a bigger reaction to the fact that the ship is gone. She's like, it was the trade for Seven's life. Okay, I love Seven, but a Borg being free in 2024 is a problem. I feel like that was a bad trade.
But we don't know that though, because the thing is that the ship left, and I think they left to the future because it need that ship to go back to the future. But now
what they established is that she was going to have 400 years to make a better collective. So she was going to she was not going to the future. They very specifically said she was going to the Delta Quadrant. So that's where she's going.
Oh, teleport. Yeah, that's right. That's what the original Burlington. I think, I mean, yes, I would agree with McCollum about a better reaction when the ship is the only way back home. But now that Picard is so focused on finding out, I mean, finishing off Soong right now, because right now they took care of one part of the equation, which is the Borg Queen trying to take a ship. That's fall of the plan, sort of. Even because it had to save Seven's life, and now the other part of the equation is Soong himself. He might still screw up the timeline and everything. So, because I don't know, because I'm not sure which Soong is worse and everything, but this Soong is so desperate to get to be sure to get his
legacy, his
philosophy.
legacy. His
legacy be concrete and everything. And he was fed up with lies from Q. saying that we will do this, we do this, and Picard had to reason with him saying, no, we were feared. And then he did, well, without the same time, did not reveal about his descendants. And of course, he did not mention about Data, obviously. He said, I met your descendants in the form of androids, obviously. But the thing is that Adam Soong is so desperate that he'll do anything to keep his legacy. So, and as you pointed out before, well, Adam's gonna do that. Corey's gonna show up in the middle of nowhere at an odd second and say "save the day" kind of thing again, just like Soji in the last season. So I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but the thing is that well, now we talk about the end. The thing is that the riddle in order to maintain the future that you wanted, you have to have two Renees, one that lives, one that dies.
Mm-hmm.
And Colin and I talked about this offline. In the whole Star Trek lore, there's only two Renees that we know so far, which is the one we've seen in this season, which is the ancestor, and the second Renee
His nephew.
is Jean-Luc Picard's
Right.
nephew, who died in the fire.
Yeah.
So
Basically, that's what it is, and I think that's just a nod to just say fan service. Yeah, that's you're gonna basically repair the timeline, basically. But it makes no sense because they have no ship. How are they gonna repair the timeline? What, the Borg Queen didn't come back, or there's some ex machina moment that's gonna come in, like someone's gonna save them, like some weird thing where they travel back in time to save them. I don't know.
I think the only solution here is Q. He can move through
That's
time.
true.
He can move through time and space when he has his powers, with little to no effort. But they've already established that he's dying and he doesn't have his power, so they're gonna have to resolve that. Yeah. I'm not sure how they're gonna bring back his like we've said all this season. I still don't understand what they need to do. Like, it's not clear to me that the Renee thing is what they need to do. But okay, let's say, based upon what they said so far, that Renee, the change in Renee not going on the Europa mission is the thing. It's not clear that is the thing. That's just what the Borg Queen is saying is the thing. But let's assume it is the thing. She has to live, right? We already know that other Renee is already dead. I feel like he's already. I'm not going to say he's completely accepted the fact that his nephew is dead. It obviously affected him quite a bit in First Contact. That's why he was acting so erratically. And it still probably weighs on him because we saw in the first episode when he was giving the speech, he was saying that he was the last of Picards, and he was actually recounting all the other Picards and the people that have done so many things, and he was lamenting the fact that he was the last Picard. So I'm not saying that he's okay with it, but it did happen to him like 30 years ago. So like, it happened to him like 30 years ago. So I would arguably, again, his mother dying happened to him almost like 80 years ago, and he still hasn't gotten over that. So maybe he's just a guy who holds on to things. But
well, he didn't hold on to that to his girlfriend from Insurrection. He didn't hold on to that, unfortunately.
Yeah,
that was just a fling to him, right?
I don't know, but I think that like I said, they're trying to explain away his issues with women because of this core issue with his mother. Like the first woman that he loved. This is how it ended. So,
sure,
because this is how it ended with the first woman that he loved. He couldn't get close to any other woman. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
He just had flings along the way, pretty much.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Sure. I don't know what they're going to do with the two. I'm not sure what they're going to do with the two Renee things here, but they're obviously, unless they're talking about a completely different timeline. And we're talking about the same Renee back in 2024. They're obviously referencing his nephew here.
Right.
Yeah. And then he says, "I refuse to accept outcome that has not yet occurred." Okay. And that's the end of the episode. I don't know. Did we miss anything else from this episode? We talked about Soong.
we pretty much summed up everything.
Yeah.
We talked about Soong and his craziness. I mean, I didn't show any screenshots from it, but we talked about him chasing him through the catacombs. Some of that stuff was good because we saw the catacombs in his head and him actually recounting the fact that he had to use them to escape Soong meant that he had to actually physically go through memory lane as opposed to how he was doing it in his head. So some of that was good. Some of that was clever. But yeah, there were all kinds of issues with this episode, which we pointed out. The stuff with Seven, the stuff with Raffi made no sense. Even the stuff with Rios, they just basically wanted him to be alone with her for a little bit, but he was just shot in the arm. Like there was no reason to take him out altogether. He just needed to get medical attention, and then he could get back into the fight. I appreciate that they gave him like a saving, a scene at the end where he saves them. But yeah, it didn't make any sense. That he was sidelined, except for the fact that the writers wanted him to be alone with with her to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And when you're watching a show and the characters aren't doing things that make sense, and you have to say, "Oh, this is only happening because the writers decided that this is happening." It's like little kids playing with action figures. It's not like an actual story where you actually invest in the characters and you think, "Oh, the character is going to do this because of this that happened or that happened." Him taking him off the board made no sense, except for the fact, like I said, the writers wanted him to have that scene with her. And to say that he was not going to stay back in the past, even though it looks like he's going to stay back in the past. Yeah. Anyway, we've been talking about this for almost an hour and a half now. You guys have any other thoughts? Any other predictions as we go into the final episode of season 2?
I think there's a few things I have in mind for this finale that I kind of hope and think it might happen. Like, for example, maybe if they're going back to the future, we might see Whoopi Goldberg as
I think we're
Dynamite
definitely going to
again
see. I think we're
one more
definitely going to see
time.
Whoopi in the next episode. Yeah.
And then maybe there'll be another surprise. At least I'm thinking 2 more surprises for Picard when he gets back to the future. I'm thinking that one is Laris. When I say Yaris, the Toyota car. What the hell?
They're gonna tie up the Laris thing as well, especially given that Tallinn has been in this thing again. Another actor that they wanted to give a job this season, so they just made up another thing for her to be in the past.
And then maybe another surprise could be relating to Picard's family. I don't know. When Jeri said 2 Picards, I'm thinking, wait a minute, is there something going to happen in Picard's family, like a change? Or it could be something like Q would reward him to do this, to pass this test or whatever, or something. And then maybe another surprise, there could be a cliffhanger of season 2. Why? Because since the reveal of season 3 was announced, I'm thinking, okay, I think season 2 is going to leave a cliffhanger here to hype up season 3. And as for the rest, I think Elnor might come back alive, and since they changed the time, Elnor would come back alive. But Jurati, that's the only thing in the bag that I'm not sure yet, because 400 years in the Delta Quadrant, we might see 2 Juratis again, maybe we might come back to the moment when the Stargazer met the Borg Slayer ship. So, but maybe when they go back that point, that singularity point rather, something will change and something will hint up saying that, okay, wait a minute, we know what to do from here. So that's my guess. What do you guys thought?
I mean, I've guessed at a couple of things that'll happen. Like, I think we'll definitely see Guy in the next episode. I think, however, they explain Gerardi being there as the Borg Queen is going to be a bit convoluted, but they have to explain it in a way that resolves the fact that they killed like 50 people in this episode, because that creates a lot of issues. Like, it's like, are you saying all these people are insignificant? Not just they're insignificant, but their entire like bloodline after them, or is it insignificant? All the people that they could have, that all the grandchildren and great grandchildren that they could have they could have given birth to or been the progenitors of are also insignificant. So yeah, all that stuff has to be wiped out by some sort of explanation. And I don't know. I don't know how they're going to wrap that up. Like, we're going to see. I think we're going to see guy named Whoopi Goldberg in the next episode. We're going to definitely see Q in the next episode. We're going to see Soong in the next episode. We're probably going to see Corey in the next episode. We're probably going to see Laris in the next episode. And they only have an hour. So it's a lot. It's a lot to tie up. It's a lot to tie up.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Colin, got anything else? If not, we can, I guess, close.
Yeah, I think I'm good in terms of what I wanted to say. Looking forward to what they have in store, and I just have the same kind of feeling that it's not going to be all wrapped up, and there's going to be a lot of loose ends and things like that, and maybe there is a cliffhanger, but who knows? Everything's so unpredictable right now for me.
I don't think they're going to have. I think there'll probably be some loose ends, but it's just not going to be satisfying. They'll probably not have that many loose ends, but it's not going to be satisfying. The way that they close out the story. There's just too many issues that they created, and too many plot holes, too many issues with time that they created. That it's not going to be satisfying. It's not going to make sense. It's going to be a little convoluted, but I guess we will see. Anyway.
Yep.
That is what we think. We are really interested to hear what you guys think. So please comment down below to join the conversation. And like and subscribe to get more content like this. And we will see you next week for the season finale of Picard. All right, guys. Bye. Thanks.